Okay. All right. Welcome to everyone joining us this morning. I'm Marley Wilson. I'm with the Chicago Food Policy Action Council. I'm the Good Food Purchasing Project Manager. And we're going to spend the next hour talking about a new microgrant funding opportunity that is being provided by the Chicago Food Policy Action Council, which you may hear me refer to as CIVPAC for short, our loving acronym, in partnership with the Cook County Department of Public Health. And this funding opportunity has a wonderful long name here, providing healthy, locally sourced emergency meals to food insecure communities in suburban Cook County. So we are going to spend, we have 75 minutes for this session. We've scheduled it until 12:15 or 12:45, excuse me. I think that we're probably going to wrap our overview much earlier than that so that we can save plenty of time for Q&A. And we likely will finish by the end of the hour at 12:30, but we just have that extra wiggle room just in case. But we'll be going over the funding opportunity, the background and context for this microgrant, who is eligible to apply and what kinds of activities it can fund, and then the technical assistance that will be provided during the grant period, as well as how to apply. And then again, we're going to try to leave as much room for Q&A as possible so that folks can ask any questions that you might have. And for folks joining late, welcome. If you missed me sharing my introduction, I'm Marley Wilson. I'm with the Chicago Food Policy Action Council and serve as the Good Food Purchasing Project Manager. Okay, and now that I've introduced myself, I welcome you all to introduce yourselves in the chat. So you can pull up the chat and just share your name, the role that you play, and whether you're affiliated with a specific organization or business, where you are located, and a favorite food that's currently in season as we as we kind of embark on the summer months here, our 98-degree day today. And while you all are introducing yourselves, I would like to invite Amy O'Rourke, our partner from the Cook County Department of Public Health, to introduce herself as well and just say hi to folks on the line.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Marley. I'm so happy to be partnering with the Chicago Food Policy Action Council to release these funds and make these funds available to support improving access to healthy local foods across suburban Cook County, specifically in communities that were most impacted by COVID. So again, my name is Amy O'Rourke. I'm the Director of Chronic Disease Prevention and Control with the Cook County Department of Public Health. And in this role, I oversee our active living, healthy eating, and tobacco-free communities working alongside the Chicago Food Policy Action Council to also support implementation of something called the Good Food Purchasing Program, which we'll talk about more in a little bit. But again, looking forward to getting to know everyone on the phone and answering any of the questions that you have about this funding opportunity. So with that, I think we'll kind of kick it off. Okay, and I see in the chat everyone sharing their name, what organization they represent, their role, and then favorite foods, a variety of favorite foods: blueberries, asparagus, blueberries again, kale, plums, watermelon. Oh, perfect! Everything sounds delicious, especially on a day like today. So, one of my favorite foods this time of year: grilled corn. Okay, so Marley, I'll continue on. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Okay, great. So just a little bit of brief information. So again, we have released this request for funding proposals in partnership with the Chicago Food Policy Action Council. Again, at the heart of this funding is really a goal of expanding access to healthy, locally sourced emergency meals to food insecure communities in suburban Cook County. Again, the goal of this is to build and support resiliency of local farms and food enterprises in and around suburban Cook County. We want to build economic resiliency and build economic opportunities for these local farms and food enterprises in suburban Cook County. What we're through this funding opportunity, we're planning to release up to $25,000 grants per grant for at least 5 awardees. We will be prioritizing these grants for local farms, food businesses that are owned and controlled by Black, Indigenous, Latinx, people of color, as well as women, LGBTQ, and veteran-owned entities. So again, we are prioritizing these entities when we're reviewing these applications or proposals for funding. As we're looking at some key dates to keep in mind, we are looking at, we do expect all applications and materials to be submitted by July 15th. We will be planning on sharing, CFPAC will release information or share the award announcements by the end of July. And then we anticipate these projects will run between August of 2022 and May of 2023. So again, it's a shortened time frame, but again, looking to immediately, kind of bolster existing, emergency meals in communities of need across suburban Cook County. So we'll get into the why now. So just a little bit of background about the work that the Cook County Department of Public Health does and what we've seen as a result of COVID. Unfortunately, over 760,000 Cook County residents are food insecure, and more than 30% of this need is found in suburban Cook County. Black and Hispanic older adults have disproportionately experienced higher levels of food insecurity during COVID-19, and there is a link between food insecurity and COVID-19 complications. Our work at the Cook County Department of Public Health focuses on advancing health equity for all people, whether supporting policies like minimum wage and earned sick leave, or investigating communicable diseases, case managing high-risk infants, or preventing tobacco use. COVID-19 unfortunately has highlighted in bold relief the disparities that we in public health are all too familiar with, especially in our south and west suburbs. Latinx and African American residents have historically been disproportionately affected by heart disease, lung diseases, cancers, diabetes, and other underlying conditions that put them in increased risk for more severe illness and even death from COVID-19 and other chronic and communicable diseases. These health outcomes are the results of years of racist policies like redlining, limited access to health insurance and healthcare, and community disinvestment. COVID-19 unfortunately has worsened pre-existing issues like unemployment, access to medical care, access to healthy foods, places to be active, and housing insecurity. We've seen increases in homicides, opioid-related deaths, domestic violence, substance use, and anxiety and depression as well as a result. COVID-19 has exposed the weak points in our local food system, resulting in food supply chains that we continue to feel. These disruptions that have increased food insecurity and caused economic harm among our most vulnerable communities. This crisis has demonstrated why we need to build a local food system that is more resilient. One way, back in 2018, we've made a step towards building a more resilient food system was by something called the Good Food Purchasing Program. In May of 2018, Cook County approved a resolution that recognizes the impact of our $15.3 million we spend on an annual basis on creating a more equitable and sustainable food system. This resolution established the Cook County Good Food Task Force, and it mapped out our process for policy implementation with partners at the Center for Good Food Purchasing and the Chicago Food Policy Action Council. This effort was led locally by Representative Jesus Chuy Garcia, who at the time was a Cook County Commissioner and chaired the Commission on Social Innovation. Since 2018, the Cook County Department of Public Health and Chicago Food Policy Action Council have been working with the county's procuring departments to implement GFPP, to make shifts and changes in what we purchase and who we purchase it from and how that food is prepared, and how nutritious that food is, what we're serving at Cook County Stroger and Provident hospitals, what we're serving at Cook County jails and in juvenile temporary detention. At the center of this resolution, it was centered on racial justice and incentivizes businesses that are located in and hiring from low to moderate income communities in suburban Cook County. It provides access to underutilized and surplus county-owned land and buildings, and incentivizes farms growing organically and using bio-intensive methods. It really encourages, again, an opportunity to build economic resiliency among small and mid-sized producers locally. As I mentioned, GFPP, what we've been working towards with county departments and agencies, as the Cook County government approved this resolution with all of the procuring departments, we've been making some measured steps towards changing what we're purchasing and who we're purchasing it from and how it's, like I said, grown and prepared. So again, we're focused on these values, the good food purchasing values, encourages, again, foods that are good food, that meet good food standards, essentially. The resolution's overarching goal is to increase transparency, accountability, and racial equity across the county's food supply chain. Cook County is advancing, again, GFPP with Cook County Health, jails, juvenile temporary detention, as well as Cook County vending in a variety of different settings. And again, the values that we focus on is ensuring that we're purchasing and serving nutritious foods that are coming from sources that value their workforce and have protections and safe working environments for their staff, from local community or local providers or producers, as well as ensuring that what we're purchasing are coming from good animal sources, healthy and humane practices, and that we're protecting the environment when we're producing these food products that are served at our sites. Part of the process that we follow to support implementation is, we work with all county institutions to collect data to inform, what food purchasing, what our food purchasing looks like. We collect this data to better understand what we've been purchasing. And then from there, what percentage of their purchasing aligns with the values that we just mentioned. And from that, then we have a baseline assessment. Based on that baseline assessment, we're able to develop an action plan to to identify ways in which we can make some measured steps towards improving what we're purchasing to align more closely with the values of the Good Food Purchasing Program. So we set some incremental goals. We also, in addition to setting these goals and tracking our progress over time with additional assessments, we also find ways in which we change food contracts and shift purchases. So we find ways in which we can incorporate GFPP language and standards into our solicitations and bids for food products or food management services. So again, this is a slow process. Changing the food purchasing is a slow process, but is something that we are making since 2018 great strides in doing. So again, we're looking for ways in which we can continue to work with county departments and agencies to shift their purchasing, and then also make shifts to who we're purchasing food products from, to ensure that they're more in line with the good food purchasing standards. Again, we're not alone in this effort. This is definitely a national movement. So we are one of many communities that have adopted or are practicing these GFPP standards. So again, in addition to Cook County, I do want to recognize the city of Chicago also adopted GFPP in 2017. So again, Chicago, the city of Chicago and Cook County government are working with Chicago Food Policy Action Council to support implementation across the city and county departments and agencies. Beyond that, again, we're part of, more than 57 institutions in more than 20 cities that have adopted and are moving towards this demand for better food. And then again, locally, as I just mentioned, when we take in a zoomed in look at what's happening around us, the city of Chicago, like I said, we're in Cook County in good company. The city of Chicago adopted GFPP in 2017, really focused on the park district and the schools and expand adoption or implementation rather across other city departments. The city and county are collaborating with, as I mentioned, the Chicago Food Policy Action Council to support implementation across our region. And then we did launch our Good Food Purchasing Initiative, which again focuses on leveraging GFPP for equitable supply chain development, supporting food chain workers, and menu transformation in all community sites. Implementation of GFPP alone is not going to make the shift in the food supply chain that we know needs to happen. Generating institutional demand for good food is not enough. We must also help to ensure we are supporting a more racially equitable supply chain to benefit from the growing demand for good food. So that's been an area of focus for us. Again, part of what GFPP is and what GFPP does, we at Cook County government and at the health department recognize the unique role government plays. We have few resources or few sources of leverage, and this procurement as a whole is definitely one of the major levers that we can pull to shift again how we use these public dollars to ensure we're using them for public good. So with that, we see the opportunity to leverage these public dollars to support economic development, be good stewards of those dollars, create more transparency and accountability around how those public dollars are spent, and again, builds opportunities and improve equity. Health equity, racial equity are at the core of this policy. So for this microgrant and the connections to GFPP, this microgrant is really an opportunity to support more resilient food businesses that are strengthening the local economy and working towards closing the racial wealth gap. We see this microgrant and microgrant recipients as an opportunity to be connected to resources to support and explore public procurement processes and how they might serve Cook County government's meal programs and other local community food access points. Recipients will be connected to information about the Good Food Purchasing Standards and how to purchase more local, fair, healthy, humane, and sustainable food products. So again, it's an opportunity, and Marley will highlight more about who is eligible, again, activities or allowable activities, and then the technical assistance we plan to provide to further support those that are awarded. So in addition to the funding, everyone, the awardees will be able to provide or receive some additional technical assistance. And really, we see that as an opportunity to build capacity so that in the longer term, applicants have an opportunity to engage with the county's procurement system and process and create more economic opportunities. So with that, I'm going to turn it over back to Marley to take us through more specifically the microgrant opportunity. Thanks, Marley.
Thank you, Amy, for providing all of that background and context that informs why this microgrant exists right now and the purpose of how it fits into the broader work that Cook County government is currently doing, both on COVID-19 and on the good food purchasing policy implementation. So with that, I'm going to turn our focus to the microgrant at hand, and we'll talk through eligibility and then some of the activities that it's designed to support. So this is really meant to help provide funding to folks that are feeding their communities. And, that's really the core of what this microgrant opportunity is. So there's quite a broad number of types of entities that are eligible to apply. And this is meant to, instead of dictating who's eligible, it's really meant to just support folks that are already feeding their communities. So eligible businesses include farmers and food growers, caterers and restaurants, food service providers, that might be a food service management company, or any kind of prepared meal operation. Social enterprises, so that could be an enterprise that's run by a nonprofit organization, or a worker cooperative, or another kind of cooperatively run food business. And then mutual aid programs are also eligible to apply. We just request that a nonprofit fiscal sponsor the mutual aid project if the mutual aid project is not incorporated as a nonprofit itself or as any other kind of entity. So again, really broad eligibility to hopefully help cover, ensure that this funding can be leveraged for all different types of ways in which people are really mobilizing food in their communities right now. Now, this particular grant is focused on suburban Cook County residents, and projects will be prioritized that are providing emergency food to populations and communities that have been most impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, as identified by the Cook County Department of Public Health. And we'll go through the priority service area list. Any business or organization is eligible for this grant if they are currently or plan to provide emergency food assistance to suburban Cook County residents. So this is the priority service area list. And I'll just, for folks that maybe can't see it on their screen right now, I'll just quickly name them, and I apologize if I mispronounce any of the names. Berwyn, Blue Island, Bridgeview, Burnham, Calumet City, Calumet Park, Chicago Heights, Chicago Ridge, Cicero, Dixmoor, Dolton, East Hazelcrest, Ford Heights, Hanover Park, Harvey, Hodgkins, Justice, Linwood, Markham, Maywood, Melrose Park, Marionette Park, Northlake, Phoenix, Posen, Richton Park, Riverdale, Robbins, Sauk Village, South Chicago Heights, South Holland, Stone Park, Summit, Thornton, and University Park. So sorry, that was quite a number of service areas. The goal is that it's broad and it serves all of the communities that have been hit hardest by COVID-19. We do want to clarify that applicants that are based in these service areas, so if you are a farm or a food business or a social enterprise that's based in these service areas, you will be prioritized for in the evaluation of applications, but applicants are still encouraged and welcome to apply if they're located outside of these priority service areas, perhaps elsewhere in suburban Cook County, perhaps in the city of Chicago, or in a surrounding county that you might be growing food for suburban Cook County in a surrounding county, or preparing food in a nearby county. So it's really meant, for folks that are feeding their neighbors and serving their communities with food, and we are prioritizing those that are located in the same communities, but but we will not disqualify anyone if they are based in the surrounding area. So allowable activities. We've been using terms like emergency meals and emergency food assistance. What we mean by that, we also wanted to keep as broad as possible to cover all of the different ways in which people are feeding community. So these might include community supported agriculture shares from a farm, or a Veggie RX program that, groceries that have been written as a prescription to a community member via a healthcare system. It could be a grocery bag of fresh produce. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a prepared meal. It could be, raw, like produce, fruits and veggies, various different food products, or it could be prepared meals, including breakfast, lunch, dinners that are pre-prepared and provided to community members. So really it's meant to be, broad and apply to lots of different ways in which people are feeding their neighbors. And we strongly encourage the inclusion of nutrition education materials alongside food delivery. And if you're thinking about applying and you don't have that expertise, or you don't have nutrition education materials that you currently use, we are very happy to connect you with our partners that have already developed nutrition education materials that you can adapt and use. And if you're also interested in creating new ones that go alongside your program, we're really happy to have that kind of be a part of your plan for the grant. We also recognize that a lot of projects are partnerships between a lot of different groups. There might be a food service provider, a caterer, or a restaurant that's working really closely with an existing, a food pantry, or a mutual aid network, or a faith-based organization, or a healthcare system to get food out to community. And so we welcome you to share kind of what your existing community partnerships are. But if you're a food business that doesn't have any of these existing partnerships, but you really want to, you want to in service of feeding your community, we are happy also to put you in touch with a community-based organization and make that connection. And again, I know this is a lot, so we'll definitely have plenty of time for Q&A at the end. This particular funding, this microgrant is, the funding is through a grant from the Centers for Chronic Disease Control. We can only apply this funding towards staff time. So that could be towards staff time participating in technical assistance sessions, staff time in building emergency meal distribution operations through business planning, staff time in developing and updating nutrition education materials. And of course, staff time in preparing and distributing emergency meals, or providing some kind of additional supplemental education around nutrition and food to meal recipients. Unfortunately, this microgrant cannot be used for capital improvements or direct purchases of food. And so if that's something that you would need additional funding for, we do have some suggestions of complementary sources of funding for those particular items. And then that's included in our frequently asked questions in the request for proposals. And we just, we acknowledge that this funding is limited and unfortunately just limited to staff time, but we do hope that it can help, complement other funding sources and supplement the funding that you might already have to further invest in staff time. The expected outcomes of this microgrant opportunity, we are hoping that we will award at least 5 microgrants to small and mid-sized food businesses and food producers or prepared meal providers, etc. And that on average, they'll serve each microgrant recipient will serve about 2,000 meals over the duration of the grant period, with the goal for at least total 10,000 emergency meals to be distributed to suburban Cook County communities during the project period. Now, you'll find in the frequently asked questions, what if you are really excited about this grant opportunity, but you believe you can only serve 500 to 1,000 meals through May of 2023. We still encourage you to apply. We may not be able to fund you the full 25,000 in the award, but we will definitely consider smaller projects and are willing to adapt the award. So please still apply. And again, we're just trying to reach the overall goal of 10,000 meals through this grant opportunity. And we will need to track some key data so that we can report that back to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. We will work with all of the microgrant recipients to hopefully make this as easy as possible, because we know data collection and reporting can be a huge headache, and we want to limit that as much as possible. But we'll just be looking to understand, how many meals have been delivered and provided, how often you're providing them, the types of emergency meals. So whether that's looking like a grocery bag or a prepared meal or a Veggie RX program or a community supported agriculture share box, we'll just need to know kind of exactly what the food looks like. And then the types of food items that are being included. So that might include that might mean sharing a sample menu that you're using, or a product list of what's included in a grocery bag or a CSA share. We'll be collecting some basic information about the geography and demographics of emergency meal recipients, and that might be something that your community partners help you identify. And then if there's what types of nutrition education is being provided, if it's a written resource, or if there's any kind of classes or videos or other kinds of educational materials being provided to those receiving food. Again, we want to make sure that this is as easy as possible. So we'll be providing microgrant recipients with templates and tools and suggestions for how to track this data so that it doesn't become overwhelming, because I definitely empathize with that. Technical assistance, that's a good segue into talking about the kinds of technical support, in addition to grant reporting support, that recipients will receive. So awardees will be connected to local business support organizations for free consultations throughout the grant period. We do require that awardees attend at least 3 group meetings that will be with those business support organizations, and that they take advantage of at least 5 hours of one-on-one support. But what the focus of the technical assistance will really be tailored to what the needs are of the grant awardee. So examples of TA could include business planning, staff training, grant writing to help raise further funds, relationship building and networking. So especially connecting to, if you're a farm, connecting to more outlets for community partners and outlets that might want to sell or purchase your food. If you're a prepared meal business, a caterer or a restaurant, connecting you with more farms that you can purchase from locally. Definitely really interested in helping to kind of build the connections between our local food system through this grant opportunity. And then also walking through some of the local, state, federal food related regulations, especially when it comes to food safety. Again, as we mentioned previously, nutrition education materials, if that's something that you would like support in developing, or that you would like to utilize some a partner's community nutrition education materials, we'll be helping to connect you with those. And then information about the good food purchasing policy, and how those who are awarded these funds can strive towards providing food that's aligned with the values. So local, sustainable, healthy, fair, humane food purchases. Okay, so if this all sounds good, if you are listening and you are providing food to suburban Cook County residents, or you want to do that, and you would like to apply, that's awesome. We really want to encourage you to apply. We hopefully have made the process not too arduous, not too difficult. I will drop the link in the chat to our website, which has the full request for proposals language on there, and a big button to a Google form where you will apply online for the funding. There's a copy of the application form in PDF that you can download from the website. That's just available as a reference so that you can see all of the questions in one place that you'll be required to answer. You'll also be asked to upload a budget of how you'll apply the $25,000 towards your project. And again, it really should be focused on staff time. But if you want to just provide kind of a breakdown and then share a justification as part of the budget template, just a brief sentence or two of, exactly how the funds will be applied. And then you'll upload that to the Google form. And that's it. And the questions, the hope is that the application isn't too long, but it's just designed to help us get to know your project. So how you're, who you are, what your mission and vision is as a business, or as a farm, or as a social enterprise. How are you aligned with the good food purchasing policies goals? And then sharing a little bit about what you propose in your activities, how you would be serving your community with this fund, and then who you're planning to serve, and whether you have any existing community partners, or if that's something that you'd be really interested in being connected with as a part of this grant funding. And that's it. So if you're new to grant writing and you don't have a lot of experience with maybe writing grants previously, we have Catherine Pereira on the line who's a local food and small farms educator with the University of Illinois Extension. And we are so fortunate to have her as a member of the Cook County Good Food Task Force, and a wonderful support for grant writing for any applicants that would like an extra pair of eyes or some suggestions on how to frame their application. So Catherine's email is up here on the screen, and I'm just gonna drop it in the chat as well, so you have that at your fingertips. And let's see. Okay, it's 12:13, so we managed to end in 45 minutes with our formal presentation on this microgrant opportunity, the background and context, the types of businesses that are eligible, and the types of activities that it's geared to fund. And we'd love to welcome the space the rest of the time to any questions that you all on the line might have. And feel free to use the chat to ask questions. You're also welcome to unmute yourself. You should be able to unmute and share a question verbally if you would prefer. And we'll do our best to, if we can't fully answer your question now, we will do our best to get back to you if we can't fully answer it now. We'll also be planning to, if there are any really big questions that aren't fully answered in the RFP, the request for proposals, or our frequently asked questions section of the proposal, we'll be adding those to the FAQ so that they're available for others that aren't able to attend this info session. So with that, I will lean into the silence and let folks ask questions if they have them.
So I have a question.
Sure. Hi, Norman. We can hear you.
Good, great, thank you. So my organization provides counseling services and youth development programs in Cicero and Berwyn. It's primarily a Latinx community. And we also have a food distribution program that's distributed about 250,000 pounds of food to 4,000 plus food insecure families in Cicero, Berwyn, and other near west suburbs of Chicago. Additionally, we have a youth health ambassadors program that played a leadership role in providing vaccine education campaigns to, again, primarily first and second generation Latinx residents. And I'm wondering if we could use the grant to kind of reposition our youth health ambassadors to be, nutrition, healthy cooking and eating ambassadors, providing educational resources for the community, perhaps workshops on healthy cooking and eating, more formally running our food pantries, and potentially building, vegetable beds at local schools to educate young people about locally sourced food, sustainability, things of that sort. Does that sound like it fits into the parameters of the grant?
I think it does. Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like a really exciting project and something that would be mobilizing food and community and connecting community members to healthy food and then activating an existing network of ambassadors to provide nutrition education that's culturally relevant and, celebrating diversity of different diets. I think it sounds great. Amy, any other thoughts from your perspective on a project like that?
No, that sounds like an exciting, like Marley said, an exciting project and a way of, again, the goal of this is building your own capacity to do more of this work. So you're looking to do that in the local community of Berwyn, Cicero, and these are communities of focus for us as well. So yeah, this sounds like a great project and a great proposal. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
excellent. Thank you.
Especially if it's connecting, it sounds like you have some existing projects going on that are very much in line, like you're already providing hundreds of thousands of pounds of food to the community. So it's like, if we can reinvest in that and continue to support that work too, of really getting food out to residents, that sounds awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, the goal ultimately, I think, would be to create a community health workers to more formally play that role, but to transition them, high school students, into addressing food insecurity in the community, I think is a valuable goal. So thank you for the opportunity.
Great. Yeah, thank you so much for attending today's session and learning more. And does anyone else have any other questions around, we're happy to field more questions around if you have any concerns that maybe your project might not be a good fit, we're happy to clarify. I see a hand raised. Is it for Shonda?
Yes, it is.
Hi.
Hi. So I just have a question. So I own a culinary incubator in Park Forest where we have over 30 different food service companies that use my shared kitchen. I also teach food service classes in I do a workforce development program teaching people how to cook. I was wondering if I was to do a program where we taught healthy cooking and possibly getting together with one of the faith-based organizations to supply the food and we do the training. Would that be something?
Yeah, that sounds really exciting. Do you think
Because
that
we have the facilities and everything to teach the cooking classes and things like that. So possibly they will go home with a healthy meal and recipes and things like that, you know, to actually be able to start eating healthy at home.
that sounds awesome? And I think if you, yeah, if we could help, you know, if you have some existing relationships or if you need help connecting to faith-based community organizations, yeah, I mean, if there's a way that that the meals being developed as part of the culinary classes can be, you know, distributed to community members, or if there's, yeah, I think as long as that the culinary classes are connected to that like meal distribution or food distribution, that would be a really exciting opportunity.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah. Awesome. Great. Okay, any other questions or feedback?
I just have one thing to say. After hearing for Shonda Green, I'm the director of the Pantry of Rich Township, and there might be a way that we might even be able to connect because we have quite a few people in Richton Park, Park Forest. We do all of Rich Township that may be able to take advantage of something for Shonda is interested in doing. And so it might be great to connect with you for Shonda.
Definitely. I'll drop my information in the chat so you can grab it.
Okay, sounds good. I'll leave mine as well.
Okay, thanks.
That's exciting. Thank you so much, Odette, for raising that potential collaboration. That's really exciting. That was the goal of today, is really, you know, be able to provide information, address questions, concerns, and help make those connections where possible. So great. Thank you for joining us and for raising that. Anyone else? And I know some of you joined after, you know, sharing, you know, what organization you represent. If you didn't already do so, please drop it in the chat, because again, thank you so much for making the time to learn more about this funding opportunity. We hope to have the opportunity to work with you as you move forward.
Yeah. I think one other thing I'll raise is, you know, this is, we're really excited about this funding opportunity, and we're also really excited about some funding opportunities that are on the horizon that will supplement and add to this funding. So just to share, like, I think there's going to be, we, as a part of the Metro Chicago Good Food Purchasing Initiative, we're planning to stand up a community fund by the end of this year. We were hoping that it would launch in conjunction with this funding, but it's not quite ready yet. So, but we will make sure that everyone is informed about not just, you know, this opportunity, but more funding opportunities that you can continue to build on. Because we do know that, like, this particular grant is, you know, limited in terms of how the funding can be applied and just the number of applicants that we can award. So, but the hope is that, yeah, we'll have a lot of opportunities to provide notices of other funding coming down the pipeline. We're more than happy to continue to answer any questions that you might have, but we also acknowledge that you might have these questions tomorrow or, you know, before July 15th when the when the application is due. So I did just want to make sure that everyone was connected to our email, info@chicagofoodpolicy.com, where you can drop us a line anytime and we'll follow up with you to make sure we get your question answered. Vicki, I'm seeing your question in the chat. I'm an advocate for good food. My school district canceled food service for my community and I want to help. Is this a good fit? That's a great question. And I'm very concerned about that, the district not providing food service. It could be a good fit. I think it probably I'd want to learn a little bit more about the approach. Like, I don't know if this particular funding could be used to support a school district's purchasing directly of meals. A district wouldn't be an eligible entity in themselves, but if it was a meal provider that wanted to partner with the district to share food with students and their families and the community, I think that we could definitely, I mean, that might be a better fit. So I think it just kind of depends on what the structure of the approach would be, but certainly that's something that if it was intended to help kind of fill a gap in need for students and their families, that sounds like it would be an appropriate fit overall. And Vicki, let me know if there's any other, if that answered your question or if you feel like you need a little bit more information. Good question. Okay, so Vicki is asking that their background is in foods and they're currently in a growing local grain cohort, but who would pay for the food itself? So the funding, our funding can be used for staff time. So staff time in like preparing the food for meal delivery or food delivery. And it can be, used for the staff time that goes into professional development and support and business planning. And, but it cannot actually be used to pay for food purchases themselves. And that is one limitation, certainly, of this grant funding. It's really meant to help complement existing funding sources for those food purchases and or provide some backbone funding that can then help raise more funds that could be used for food purchases. But unfortunately, that would need to be like that funding source would need to come from outside of the this particular grant funding. And we do have several suggestions of some other grant funding sources that are currently something that you might want to look into via the frequently asked questions section of the application, the request for proposals. And again, we are working on this Good Food Purchasing Initiative Community Fund as well, that will be less restrictive in how the funds are required to be applied.
Hi, Marley. Melody.
Hi.
I just want to ask a question. I know you said it's for staff only, but I noticed on the budget template, it also includes mileage and equipment and other kinds of things. Can you kind of share what that's about?
Yeah. So actually, that's a good question around mileage and equipment or equipment. No, it cannot be equipment that's like infrastructure. But I do believe, and Amy, correct me if I'm wrong, that if it was like supplies that were required for.
Right. Yeah, so supplies are allowable. Equipment like infrastructure, no, like a refrigerator. Unfortunately, like those types of capital improvement related expenses, no, unfortunately, but supplies related to meal distribution or supplies related to the nutrition education or education are allowable expenses in addition to staff time. But unfortunately, no food related purchases are allowed from the CDC.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And we can clarify that in our slide deck, so that it's we're really definitely gearing it towards staff time, but there are other allowable expenses. So yeah, we should clarify that in the FAQ of the request for proposals as well. And I see, Cynthia, you have a question around that your organization feeds the homeless community by providing non-perishable food items and toiletries. That you do make sure to provide nutritious food items in the packages that they give out. Would this be a good platform for my organization? That's a good question. I think so. We are definitely hoping that it will be aligned, yeah, with the kind of good food standards and supporting, you know, local and sustainable and healthy, fair and humane food items, but that certainly can be achieved through non-perishable food items. And I think that it's absolutely something that could be aligned with this particular microgrant. We are definitely hopeful that like this is helping to, this funding in particular is really helping to, you know, align with the good food purchasing standards, these values, and that wherever possible, we're really helping to connect communities to those like local food producers, especially that are in their backyards. So as much as we, you know, can support that through this microgrant, just knowing that there are some limitations, but as much as we can do that, we're hopeful that it will help kind of build out a stronger food ecosystem.
There is another question in the chat, Marley, from Cynthia Williams.
Oh, I think I just answered that one.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. But these are all such good questions. So thank you everyone for contributing. And then my apologies, I also had shared that I was going to link to the website so that you had that as part of the chat. So let me just make sure. If anyone needs it, the link now is in the chat to the main landing page for information about the grant opportunity. And I'll just type in the email address that you can reach out to if you have any questions after this info session. Okay. All right, I think with that, we will wrap up this info session with, again, the caveat that if you do have further questions or clarifications, definitely reach out. We want to thank everyone for their time today. We know everyone is busy and wearing multiple hats and doing a lot of work. So thank you not just for your time today, but also for all that you do to support community food access and to build a more resilient food system. So just deep appreciation to you all. And I hope that we stay in touch from this session. So see you soon and good to connect.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Marley. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Catherine.